Welcome back to the final preview episode of the regular season of Banditland Boulevard. I'm Trevor Howard. This is my brother Jake Howard. Tony's not with me because he's doing something with the fiance tonight, so we decided to take it over right now to preview a game that last week after the big win over Calgary is kind of a meaningless game, but now with the Nighthawks beating the Georgia Swarm in real time this past night, probably about an hour ago, the game wrapped up. We have some serious playoff implications in this game. We can either finish from 3 to 7, I believe it was just about 12 hours ago. And now the Bandits have the opportunity with a win against the Las Vegas Desert Dogs. They can finish in fourth place, and depending on what the Albany Firewolves do, they can finish in third place.
Yeah, both these games last week had obviously a lot of meaning, and this week was always going to have a lot of meaning. So last week, when we're in, right? So now we're in the playoffs. Now we just got to get one more win to get at least one home playoff game. So I'll take a win however we can get it. Regardless of however we win, it's going to be a home playoff game. But I would love a win tomorrow, along with a riptide upset over Albany, because 4 seed would be great, but obviously finish as high as possible. I would love that 3 seed too. But just give me a home playoff game. Give Bandland a home playoff game.
As of right now, the Bandits are in fifth place in the standings. Las Vegas is in second last. I believe the Colorado Mammoth are in last place in the
Dead
standings,
last. Broke them.
where they belong. This is actually Las Vegas's last game playing in the Michelob Arena before they move to Henderson next year because they have not clinched a playoff spot. This will be the last game in that arena. They're moving from the Strip over to Henderson, where the Vegas Golden Knights AHL team play their home
Correct.
game. So they'll be playing in Henderson next year. But huge implications going into this game. Getting a home quarterfinal matchup, which is essentially an MLB wildcard game, which is one and done, or those what the standings used to be like. One and done, and you advance on to the best 2 out of 3. I think what the Bandits need to do is they put themselves in that opportunity to get that quarterfinals matchup. Now that they have it, number one, you got to figure out where the hell you're going to even play that game. You're either going to play it on the road or at home. I'm confident in both buildings. Don't get me wrong, but a late April game, a playoff quarterfinal matchup in Banditland would be a whole lot sweeter than watching it in a different arena.
Absolutely. And this is a team that's getting hot at the right time. I think they finally figured themselves out. And it starts with two players, right? Well, I mean, we could talk about the offense all day, but let's talk about our two deadline additions, kind of, sort of. Connor Farrell coming in, giving us the face-off guy that we desperately need, completely changes the dynamic of the team. And then you get our other trade deadline acquisition, that's Paul Dawson. I think Paul Dawson's had a lot of knowledge and wisdom that's brought on from him to the younger guys on the team, and not just the younger guys on the team, but guys that have been on the team for a while. Like, I mean, Priolo knows the ins and outs of the league, so he's gonna be a big help alongside.
He's probably the
Paul
longest
Dawson.
tenured Bandit on the team.
Absolutely. But then you got him bringing knowledge on to guys like Justin Martin and Cam Wires and Zach Belter, and Dylan Robinson. All those boys, everybody on defense has been contributing or has been impacted positively from the addition of Paul Dawson, just because of the knowledge and experience that he brings. So, and then let's go back to the offense. Offenses figured themselves out. They know what they're doing. Burns been rolling the whole
Especially
year.
the secondary scoring, too.
Secondary scoring like last week from Fraser and Kluche and Buchanan and Nanakoke. All those boys. It can't just be Josh and Dane doing it all. So we had a lot of secondary scoring stepping up at a perfect time. So offense, defense, faceoffs, and Matt Vins looking like the Matt Vins that we all know and love. Last week, this is a team that's getting hot at the right time, and I've said this to a lot of people. I would rather work out the Kings in January and February than have everything hit the fan in April. So couldn't be a better time to get hot. So be ready for tomorrow. Could be a trap game because Vegas has nothing to lose. We still have a lot of stuff to play for. So just play how you know that you played and be ready to go tomorrow.
Yeah, but the basic stuff is the necessary thing that the Bandits had was already accomplished against the Roughnecks. You already made the playoffs, so that makes me wonder how dangerous is Las Vegas going to be tomorrow. This is their last game in front of their home fans. I mean, that's probably the only motivation they have going up against the Bandits this week. They didn't really draw a lot of attendance. I know there's a lot of Bandits fans making this trip out to Las Vegas,
They do
watch
have
the
some
Bandits
good
on the
players.
strips. Yeah, we'll get into some of the players to watch, but it's getting to the point where with the Bandits now, I mean, I knew that Brad McCulley trade something else was going to have to come from it. They used one of those second-round picks to trade for Paul Dawson. So they essentially traded away Brad McCulley away, a young, super young forward, send him back home, pretty much in exchange for Paul Dawson. I knew at that trade, like, I was just shaking my head, like, what is this? There has to be a follow-up move. There was about 2 months later after the fact. And since he's joined the team, the Bandits were almost undefeated. I think they're 4-1 with him on the team.
4-1.
And Matt Vince, Tony and I praised his performance. What was it, 53 shots last week against Calgary? He's only let in 7 goals, and he made some big saves there in the fourth quarter to keep the game out of touch. He's getting hot at the right time. Dane Smith, it's great this year not having to rely on Dane Smith to be that 5-goal machine like he was. Granted, seemed like the whole roster except Dane Smith was injured, and Matt Vince too, in some way, shape, or form. So he doesn't have to score those 5 goals a game, get those 13 points a night, including in those playoff games too, where Josh Byrne was out. I'm getting to the point where Chase Fraser shouldn't even be considered a secondary scorer. I'm getting to the point where Chris Kluche shouldn't even be considered a secondary scorer, because these guys they're at least on the score sheet every single game, at least every single home game that we go to. We hear all their goal songs all the time. Tehoka Nanticoke, I can see him being a solid secondary guy. But the key word when you're talking about the Bandits from this year and last year, something that we did not have in 2022, is depth. And we get checked on our depth all the time because the injury report never fails to pop up with some phantom injury, maybe during practice or during warm-ups, and this person's not playing. Okay, this person needs to step up. Oh, okay, this person gets called up from the taxi squad, and he's going to have to show up. The Bandits have depth, and that's what makes them dangerous. And they're using those depth guys to score goals, create separation, and get wide open in front of the net. That's some of the big reasons why they beat Calgary by such a wide margin last week.
Yeah, they've been healthy for a while. Really, the only main injury or key injury that we have to watch every week on the injury report is Matt Spanger. He's been out for, I want to say, a month and a half, 2 months. So hopefully we get him back in the playoffs, because that would be just another, obviously, phenomenal addition to our defense. But, yeah, going back to secondary scoring, you really can't call them secondary scoring anymore, right? Because these guys could be top players on any other offense, maybe besides, no, you could kill Toronto. They could be, I mean, they'd
still be top guys in
Toronto. They would roll with Schreiber and Matthews, those boys, but they would be considered like number 1 players to watch in any other team's offense, because obviously your offense runs through Josh Byrne and Dane Smith, right? But then we have an embarrassment of riches at the offensive position, because you got Fraser and Kyle Buchanan and Chris Kluche and Tehoka Nanticoke, and you also got Ian McKay who can step up and play some offense, and then we still got Brandon Robinson, who doesn't really get talked about a whole lot. So many pieces that we have that can contribute to this offense. So that's what it makes Josh and Dane's life a lot easier, because we got so many guys on this team that can score goals effectively and multiple times a game.
A lot of physical defensemen too, so they might get outworked physically on offense, even though we really haven't seen that over the course of X amount of weeks. We get pushed around sometimes in like early February, early March. But when you get those physical tough guys on defense like Zach Belter that joined the roster, or that was at least called up from the taxi squad in the middle of the season, he was a big help and a big addition to this team. Justin Robinson, when he's healthy, is a huge physical threat, and he's also always trying to score on defense too. So you can cover up as many offensive guys as you want, and it's teams like Toronto and Georgia that cover Dane and Josh really, really well, but they let some of the sneaky guys get open, like Buchanan dancing around the crease and Tehoka Nanticoke behind the net. Anyone who's not named Dane and Josh, the Toronto Rock do a great job of covering them, but they let the depth guys score. Same thing with Georgia, and it's the same thing with Albany too.
I will throw in this. Toronto does not do a good job of covering Chase Fraser either.
Nope, they don't.
Fraser's always due for at least a hat trick against Toronto. So it's
and an ESPN Sports Center top 10 goal.
100%.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of Rock fans talking on Twitter saying we can take anybody. I'd watch what you say, because history has a chance at repeating itself. History never fails any sport to repeat itself. Any sort of playoff format.
Let me just say this. Why not us again for back-to-back? Because, yeah, we got to a very slow start this year. No denying
In the middle of the season, they went cold, too.
We were very cold in the middle of the season without a face-off guy, too. But At the end of the day, you sweep the Toronto Rock, home and away.
Sweep your nemesis in the House of Horrors,
Home
Mammoth.
and away. But the key victory there was beating the Colorado Mammoth in Denver. Something that we haven't done before since COVID was a thing.
Yeah, Josh Byrne in overtime.
Correct. So, you knock out those two teams. You sweep both those two teams. You can beat anybody. I know we haven't beat all. I know Albany's had our number big time this year.
And then
But
maybe
right
a little
now-
bit last year, too.
But
at
right
home.
now, with the way the season has been coming to an end, with the way the regular season has been ending, I'm confident this team can beat anybody. And Calgary, they are a lot better team than their record shows. They have dogs on their roster. Both the Courier brothers. You have Shane Simpson, Tanner Cook, Jesse King, Christian Del Bianco. The list goes on. And we smoked them like a salmon 14-7 at home in front of 19,000 plus.
And on top of that, Calgary needed that win to stay alive in the playoff
They
hunt.
did. So the way the season has been ending, I'm 110% confident in the Bandits. Why not us again? It's just that simple. They can be anybody right now. That's just my opinion.
And never thought I'd be rooting for a Rochester Nighthawks team to help us out tonight, but they really did. It's up for the Bandits to control their own destiny, to get a home playoff game. If you told me that in the beginning of March, I would say you're absolutely out of your mind. If we were talking about a Bandits hosting a quarterfinals matchup, a lot of us, before we got Connor Farrell, who's been an absolute dog on this team, we'd be lucky to sniff 7th, 8th. I'd take an away quarterfinal matchup and go to best 2 out of 3, just somehow grab a win in that quarterfinals matchup and then go best 2 out of 3 the rest of the way.
And I was saying Connor Farrell for months. For months, I said, if you can't bring back Max Adler,
No, he's gone.
he's gone now. But that's besides the point. But I said for months, if you can't bring back Max Adler, you have to find a way to get this guy on your team. And he wanted to come play for Buffalo. So obviously we're gonna welcome. Obviously the team and us Bandits fans will welcome him with open arms. And so far he's been probably the best addition of the, not just for the Bandits, but the entire league. Just because it's been such a
Him and
game changer
DJ
for the
Pauly
Bandits.
D, too.
Absolutely.
I would think for the Bandits.
Yeah, for the Bandits for sure. But as far as the league goes, we could talk about a whole bunch of other additions that have helped out so many teams. But I think like the number one transaction throughout the entire league, just based upon how much it's affected the Bandits and just how much it's affected this team, Connor Farrell coming to the Bandits has to be signing of the year for sure, because it's literally a season saving signing.
And Tony and I have said this before on this very show. You will turn it around when you find a face-off guy. And when you find that face-off guy, you are automatically championship contenders again. Like, you can't dig yourself too deep into a hole without a face-off guy, and you're going to have to climb your way back into the playoffs, win like 5 straight to even make the cutoff. They found him at the right time. I think if you got him earlier, you're probably beating Albany at home. You're at least you have a better shot at winning that game. You probably beat the Georgia Swarm at home. This team was on the cusp of going 14-4 again, because there were a lot of teams that they wanted to take the Bandits down. They didn't have enough firepower to do so. Ask the Toronto Rock, ask the Colorado Mammoth, ask the Rochester Nighthawks. A lot of those games were close at the very end, but they wanted a piece of that Bandits championship crown. Those are 3 rivals right there, and they all came up short. So maybe if you brought him in earlier, we'd be looking at a higher seed, but we still get to control our own destiny for at least a home playoff game. We can look at some of the Las Vegas Desert Dog players to watch. We mentioned the Rochester Nighthawks, and I know they brought him like a top 2 pick in the draft this year, and he's been pretty good. But so they had to let somebody go in the expansion drafts, or the year after the expansion draft. Charlie Bertrand is probably my first player to watch. Every time that dude plays the Buffalo Bandits, it seems like he's on an absolute tear. He's due for at least 2 or 3 goals a night. I'm happy he's out of the East. I'm happy he's out of Rochester's system. But you're going to have to see a familiar face again. And he's one of those players that he's sneaky around the corners. He shoots from all angles. He likes to go high, likes to go low. We went to that game in Rochester last year when Charlie Bertrand had a hell of a game. I think he scored 4 or 5 goals in that game. He doesn't have as much firepower, at least on offense, as he did in Rochester. But he's still a sneaky player to watch for sure. And he's a guy that's going to dot you up in the trenches.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just pull up a stat check here for us real quick. Let's pull up the Vegas Desert Dogs stats, if this will load. But yeah, Charlie Bertrand's out. He's been playing against us for years, so he knows what from his time with Rochester. So he knows the ins and outs of the Bandits and how we roll. But another guy to watch, and this guy's actually leading the team, leading the Vegas Desert Dogs in points, is another familiar foe that we would go with, or that we would go up with for a good amount of times when he was playing with the Toronto Rock, and that is Rob Hellier.
Yep.
So Rob Hellier this year, he is leading the Vegas Desert Dogs with 21 goals, 53 assists. That's good for 74 points in 17 games played. So he has had a phenomenal season this year. Like I said, we know him very well from his time with the Toronto Rock.
He dominated us.
So he knows the ins and outs of the Buffalo Bandits. He knows how to play us effectively. So not only Charlie Bertram, but Rob Hellier is definitely a player to watch for the Bandits against the Desert Dogs tomorrow night.
He never really shoots out very far. So I know we have guys like Paul Dawson back there now, and we have a healthy Justin Robinson. Don't let him shoot at point-blank range. That's where he's dominant. He doesn't shoot from out far at all. He always goes either in the middle of the slot or he's right in front of the crease trying to pick a corner. If you shut him down on that right or left side or the middle of the slot, he's not going to get a clear shot off. But he's like LaDainian Tomlinson. He's like Derrick Henry. You can't hold him to 0. But if you can limit him to under 2 goals, you're going to win this game without a shadow of a doubt. There's a familiar face, former Bandit Tommy Vason, who was on our team for a little while last year on the taxi squad, filling in for a couple injured players. I think he had a multi-point night on the game where Josh Byrne went off on New Year's Eve last year. I think he had a goal and maybe 4 assists that night. I mean, that was still a crazy game, but yeah, we can look at him as definitely a player to watch too, because a lot of former Bandits seem to have their way with us. There was one more player, Zach Greer. I believe he was a Vancouver Warrior a couple years ago. Las Vegas scooped him in the expansion draft, or I could be thinking about somebody else. I think that was Zach Greer, but they do, despite the record and despite that they were one of the earliest teams to be eliminated from playoff contention, they still do have their gunslingers. They're still a professional team. The Bandits have played down to competition in a few road games this year. Vancouver, Panther City, to name a couple, but they've sort of turned their road game around. But if they can hold down some of these stars, and I don't even know who's starting goal. Is it Joel Watson?
Oh, let's check.
Or Landon Kells? I think it's Joel Watson.
Let's check it out. There's another player I want to mention too for Vegas, because we can't forget this next guy. I'll tell you.
Jack Hanna.
Yes.
Yep.
So looks like their starter is Landon Kells. So this year, Landon Kells has played 17 games. He's good for 5 wins, 11 losses, 200 goals against, 664 saves. Good for a 12.04 goals against average and 77% for saves. So not terrible.
No, 12.04 is right around Matt Vince's range, I think, this year.
The wins and losses are obviously don't really reflect him. That's more so of a full team stat.
An experienced defense.
But a 12.04 goals against average, I mean, for a team, we'll say for a team like the Bandits, for a team like the Toronto Rock, San Diego Seals, they can win a lot of their games by only giving up 12 goals.
We've seen it this year.
How high power their offenses are. So 12.04 goals against average, that's not bad. 77% for saves, that's not terrible either for Landon Kells.
Not at all. And yeah, we're going to mention somebody else too. I just saw Marshall King. I forgot about him.
Yeah, he's good too.
He's a pretty dangerous forward as well. But you want to mention Zach Hanna.
Yeah, Jack Hanna from the Vegas Desert Dogs. So this is his second year in the National Lacrosse League. Last year, obviously, had a phenomenal rookie season. Let me pull up those stats real quick. So last year, he was good for 33 goals, 31 assists. That's 64 points in 18 games right there. And this year, he's improved on that. He's improved on his point total. 28 points, 45 assists. That's 73 points in 17 games played. So, obviously, in just his first 2 years, he's been a top offensive threat in the National Lacrosse League. So, he really needs no explanation, no divisional, no conference divisional ties with the Bandits, but just an all-around great young talent.
He's going to score.
Yep, so if you can limit him to under 2, max 3 goals, should be okay for tomorrow. Should be all good for tomorrow. Just keep him in check along with Hellier and everybody else that we mentioned.
Some of the Bandits' key players to watch going into this game, you can pick a name out of a hat and it would be accurate. I want to look at Stay Hot, number 95, Chase Fraser, coming off a 4-goal game. A lot of those goals being SportsCenter top 10. The one goal that he scored, the behind-the-back pass to the behind-the-back shot, was great. and the one hand on the stick goal from last week where he was getting pretty much held by a Roughnecks defenseman and he just shoots it in with his opposite hand with one hand on the stick. That was a good goal too. Chase Fraser, that dude's playing for a contract. You can easily tell right now he'll be an unrestricted free agent after this year, but that dude's showing, hey, I want to stick around. I want to play for this Bandits team for years to come. So he's in a contract year. He came off one of his best games of his career last week. If you're talking about style point goals and just four, he doesn't really have a lot of 4-goal games. He usually maxes out around a hat trick, but he has a bunch of assists to go along with it. So a big 4-goal game from Chase Fraser was huge, and if you believe in momentum, which you should in this game, because this momentum swings the most, I think, in lacrosse out of all sports, you'd think it would bleed into this week too.
Yeah, absolutely. And staying along the lines of momentum, my Bandit player to watch, my band to watch tomorrow, it's got to be number 48, and that's Matt Vince. So obviously last week had a phenomenal game, only giving up 7 goals. I don't know how many shots that he faced.
I think it was 53 shots.
I thought it was 53 too. He faced a lot of shots last Saturday. So obviously only giving up 7 of those 53 shots, that's really, really good. So he's got to make sure to end the season off on
It's the best game of his season.
By far the best game
Without
of
a
the season
doubt.
last Saturday. So he's got to make sure that he and his boys end up the season in the best way possible. So Vino's got to stay hot. He's got to stay locked in his goal crease. Keep that goal count low. Obviously, you can't control how many shots come your way, but try your best. Keep that goal count low. Keep that momentum going from last Saturday. End your season off on the best note possible, so that way you can go into the the rest of your band's teammates can go into the playoffs with nothing but all the confidence in the world, you guys. So,
and in essentially a game 7, you have it in front of 19,000 fans in Banditland. Where else would you rather have a one and done type of game?
absolutely.
Going into the best 2 out of 3 series? So I definitely like that. Look for a big night out of Connor Farrell. Like I was searching for the transition player. Las Vegas's face-off numbers are very, very poor this year. I think it's part of the reasons why they are 5-12 or whatever their record is right now. Why they're one of the first teams to be eliminated. Connor Farrell, look for him to explode and go for 75 plus on face-offs. More face-off wins equals more possessions, more chances to shoot and score. I've been telling everyone that wasn't on the face-off train earlier in the season. We've been averaging, I think, 2 more goals per game since we acquired Connor Farrell, and our defense and transition game has benefited from him as well. So look for a huge night out of Connor Farrell.
I'll give you one more too. Sorry to interrupt, but I'll give you one more too. How many goals away is Josh Byrne from 200?
Oh, he's 2.
Two
I
away
think
now,
2.
right?
Yep.
So let's watch out for Josh Byrne tonight too, or for tomorrow night too, because he's gonna be hungry for goal number 200. He still wants to keep. He still wants to stay red hot for tomorrow night and for the rest of the playoffs. So let's watch and see. Let's see if Josh Byrne can get to 200 and obviously keep on improving that goal total on tomorrow night and throughout the entirety of the playoffs as well.
Yeah, we thought that he reached 200 points when Chris Wenson said he did, and then he said, my bad, he's at 198, he needs 2 more goals. You can do it on the road, on the strip, on the last game of the season. I think that counts for regular season goals, if I'm not mistaken. I think 200 regular season goals. So Josh Byrne, he could score 2 goals. I mean, he's been scoring all season long. So
I believe he has the most goals in the entire league right now.
Yeah, I think Dane Smith has the most points or most assists at least. And he was going to be my next player to watch too, but you really don't have to rely your whole offense on Dane Smith. So I want to choose another player. I want to look at a defenseman. Paul Dawson. Dude, this dude is an absolute machine. He doesn't take any bullshit from anyone. He'll stand you up because he's that veteran defenseman. He's not afraid to drop the glove. He's not afraid to get in your face. He's also not afraid to whip the boys into shape too. If somebody missed a slide on defense or something, or somebody messed something up in the transition game, Paul Dawson will get in your face and say, listen, try this next time. I don't want to see that again. So he brings that veteran leadership into the locker room, something that this team needed. They needed a slap in the face after that Vancouver loss, after that Panther City loss. They needed somebody in that locker room, a veteran, not named John Tavares, to hype the boys up, because you don't have to rely. Johnny T is the greatest indoor lacrosse player of all time. He's won 4 championships as a player. He's won 1 as a head coach. everyone knows his expectations. You needed a player in there to whip the boys into shape. Even though Johnny T does go out there and practice in case they're missing a left-handed forward and he laces up with the guys, you want a player with that experience and that leadership. Paul Dawson wants to win a title. He could be contemplating retirement sometime soon. I guarantee you this, he wants to win. And one of the big reasons why he came to Buffalo is because he knew that they were a championship caliber team. He wants to either end his career or maybe continue his career for another couple of years on a high note with a big championship win in Buffalo. So Paul Dawson looks like the most motivated defenseman out there on the floor. No offense to anybody else on the defensive line, but yeah.
Yeah, this could be his last hurrah because he's 39 years old right now. He's either 39 right now
Matt Vince is 41, though.
Or he's turning 39. But obviously, Paul Dawson's had a little bit, I can't say a little bit, he's had way more wear and tear on his body than Matt Vince. So, in my opinion, defensemen are going to age more or could age more than goalies do in the league. Obviously, when you're a goalie in the league, you're taking X amount of shots off on you every single night.
Defense, you're taking a beating.
Paul Dawson, absolutely, you're taking a beating when you're playing defense. So Paul Dawson, he's on the wrong side of 30. But when I say on the wrong side of 30, I just mean 39 years old. That's older for an athlete, but he's been playing very well since he's come here to Buffalo. Obviously, he's been one of the top defensemen that the National Lacrosse League has seen recently. So you already know he came to Buffalo because he wants to win with this team. He wants to win a championship because this could very well be his last year. So he's got all the motivation in the world. He should definitely be a player to watch tomorrow. And I got to fact check myself. Josh Byrne has the most points in the National Lacrosse League right now with 126. However, he does not have the most goals in the league. That is Jeff Teat with 54.
Yeah, not surprised.
So, as a Bandits fan, let's hope that Teat keeps his scoring touch for tomorrow night against Albany so that the Riptide can get a huge upset win, easier said than done. And then, so along with the Riptide win tomorrow, obviously we need a big Bandits win tomorrow. So that
we get the 3 seed.
That 3 seed.
And then we likely play Halifax at 6?
I would guess Halifax at 6.
I'd take a Halifax home quarterfinal matchup any day of the week.
We got 2 Bandits in the top 3 in points. We got Josh Byrne with number 1 with 126.
Dane Smith.
And then followed by Dane Smith, who's only 4 points behind Josh.
Yeah, it's crazy.
With 122 in the 3rd spot. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's freaking wild. I mean, you knew something had to give. The top 2 players on this team, the 1-2 punch, and Dane and Josh leading the leaderboards in points and goals, you knew something had to give, and they did clinch that playoff spot. And it wasn't one of those close back and forth trap games we've seen all season long in every single home game.
Yeah, it was nice to get a blowout win. That was our first
for the first time
win
since the Mammoth home game. I want to say
it was nice. It was well needed. That's for sure.
Yeah, we needed that win. That was big for us. Last player I want to watch. This guy's picked up his goal scoring touch last week. That's 91, Kyle Buchanan. Don't get it twisted. Chase Fraser was not the only one last week that had SportsCenter top 10 goals. Kyle Buchanan knows how to throw the ball behind his back. He knows how to put it through his legs. That dude is 36 years old, but he's one of the fastest players. He's one of the most shifty players out there on the floor. Nobody catches him dancing around the crease. You can have a scouting report on him all you want. You can watch film on him, but he's always going to beat you when he's tiptoeing around the crease. That's his specialty. So he's sort of like a shorter version of Luke Wiles in that area, where Luke Wiles would always tiptoe around the crease and dip and dunk around the goalie's shoulder. Yeah, Kyle Buchanan's the same exact way. And if he scored 2 goals last week against a team that was trying to save their season, by the way, lost by 7 goals. This is a Las Vegas team who's been out of contention for, 2 or 3 weeks now. He really has the damage to really just close the lid on the Las Vegas Desert Dogs before they turn into the Henderson Desert Dogs in front of their home fans. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, we could always talk about Chris Kluche too. He scored a couple goals last week.
The whole offense has the capability to do so much damage, not just the Vegas Desert Dogs, but to every team in the league. That's how good they are. Plain and simple. We don't have to tell you that. We can just let the numbers speak for themselves. We could rattle off so many players on this offense that can do so much. And even our transition players, when their numbers call an offense, they can do damage too. So that's how deep this team is with their scoring.
So you know who's overdue for like a 4 or 5 goal night. That's number 1, Teho Kananiko. So if he wants to, go back to his 2022 roots and be that sniper instead of that 2-way forward, you can go ahead and do it. Or if you want to save it for the playoffs, you can do it there too. I really don't mind. But as long as you carry that momentum from last week into this week, you have a sizable victory over the Las Vegas Desert Dogs, and you can carry that into a quarterfinal matchup, hopefully at home, hopefully a 3 seed.
Just win. I'm not going to get greedy. Doesn't have to be 3
No,
seed.
if you win this, you have a home game. You
3 seed would be
have a
great.
home
Just
quarterfinal
win.
game.
You win, you get a home playoff game. Just win. That's all that matters.
It's one of those similar situations from last week. If you win, you're in the playoffs. You're past that now. If you win now, you clinch a home playoff game. It's not like last year where you had the number 1 overall seed in the entire league.
Just win.
Just win.
Just do it. Just
And
win.
a team that's in 3rd place or 4th place can be the most dangerous. Everybody starts to overlook them. Toronto is up in front in first. San Diego's in second. They're going to have all the pressure on their backs. Toronto, San Diego, when they get a little bit of pressure on them in the playoffs, they fold like a cheap paper bag.
But you know
We saw
what?
that last year when they were in the quarterfinal matchup against Colorado. They got smoked, and they didn't even make it out of round 1.
I like being the 3rd or 4th seed. I like it. I think the boys are now playing with a little chip on their shoulder. I feel like now they figured themselves out. I feel like they were not really written off, but kind of sort of at the same time. I mean, yeah, you're still the.
They heard everything the fans were saying.
You're still the defending champs. You're still the top dogs of the league until proven otherwise. But they've heard some outside noise. I think they've heard outside noise, and I don't think they took it to heart too much. And you know what? They finally figured themselves out. They got that chip on their shoulder. They got that extra motivation. They're saying, we may have looked at it earlier in the year.
Don't count us out.
We're not dead yet. We're still here, and we're still a champs, and we're gonna try our best to prove it until somebody else dethrones us.
And we knew it was going to be different going into this year. You knew that they probably weren't going to be the number 1 seed again.
Because now they have
Everybody's gunning for them.
they've been chasing that championship for 15 years prior to last season, and now they're finally the hunted. And I feel like they've adapted to that adversity a lot, and they had to deal with about as much adversity as you could think of in the book last year. So why not deal with a different type? Figure that out, and now look at them now. They're not going to finish higher than 3rd, but this is one of the hottest teams in the league right now. I would not want to be anybody facing this Bandits team in the playoffs.
Yeah,
I just wouldn't. Call me a homer, but they're looking really, really good.
Them in Vancouver, I wouldn't want to face either team.
No, they're
I'm
both
being
very,
honest.
they've been both very.
If Vancouver
consistent
gets the
with
8 seed, you heard it here first. They have a legitimate shot at taking down the number 1 guys. They do. Toronto
That would
has
be a
a
trap series.
tendency. Well, that'll be a quarterfinal matchup.
Yep.
Toronto has the tendency to, I don't want to say overhype themselves, but overlook a team in the playoffs. They thought they could just roll over Buffalo last year. No, they didn't even come close.
We smoked them like I said.
They thought they could beat us in 2019.
That was the difference between. I feel like they had so much more. They had so much more motivation going into last year, because the season before last year, when we won the championship, we had so much talent on that team. But all of those games, even the division final against Albany, that was way too close.
Yeah,
The
10
games-
to 5 win that was.
The
Yep.
games last year against Rochester and the 2 games in the Eastern Conference in the Eastern semifinals against Toronto, they weren't close. And
A
I was-
waved off goal in game 2 to send the Bandits to the championship.
Well, that was the year prior.
Yep.
Or that was the year before. But this year, or last season, none of those games were close. They were not competitive.
14
We
to 5 and
smoked them.
17 to 9,
We
I
smoked
think.
them.
Yep.
And going back to that Mammoth series, that's about the game 3 is about as good as I could think of. I don't just keep it easy on the stress levels, and they absolutely did. 13 to 4, it was unbelievable.
In a do or die game.
Hardly. So we played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, 1, 2, 3.
They were
4, 5,
5 and
6
1.
games.
5 and 1 in the
Played
playoffs.
6 games. 4 of those games were absolutely not competitive.
Including a
We
20
s-
burger in the quarterfinals.
Exactly. So that team just had so much motivation last year, and I think they found their motivation level this year. So they're a scary team. Watch out for them.
Yep,
For
they're
sure.
they're scary. Halifax can be under the radar too. Nobody's really talking about them. Vancouver as well. I feel like Georgia was a little bit slept. Dude, if they didn't start off 0-7, if they maybe started off 0-6, because they went on that like 8-game win streak at the end of the year, if they snuck into the playoffs, that would have been a tough team to beat last year going in.
You're talking about Georgia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Georgia's got dogs, and it all starts with Lyle Thompson, obviously.
Yeah,
Lyle
there's a lot of
Thompson's
underrated
one of
players
the
on that team.
Best lacrosse players on the planet. But yeah, Georgia's been rolling for the entire year, so they might be a sneaky good team this year too.
However, they did just lose to a team that was already mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, which was Rochester. So
technically, right now, I will fact check that. I just saw this on Twitter. They are not completely eliminated from the playoffs yet. They have a whopping
like 1%
chance, or somewhere around that number, to make the playoffs. So all hope is all the Nighthawks faithful that like to listen to this podcast, just to, I don't know, try to get a rise out of Trev and Tony.
There are a few, believe it or not.
Don't worry.
Rochester Sports Collective, listen to him.
Don't worry, you guys are not out of the playoff race just yet.
Yeah, but you can't control your own destiny, is what we're trying to say.
You can.
You need other.
There has to be other help, but there has to be other help from teams around the league. If you're the Rochester Nighthawks, but they're not completely out just yet. They're very, very.
You need
very
government
slow,
assistance if you want to make the
not out of
playoffs.
it yet.
Yep. Keys to the game: do whatever the hell you did last week. Well, I'll start off. Fast starts. The Bandits last week they scored their first goal on a desperation shorthanded shot. They took a penalty 9 seconds into the game. Chase Fraser takes a shot. I think just trying to kill off some of that penalty, it goes in. And from that moment forward, I knew the ball was going to bounce our way. So if you jump into fast starts, the Bandits took a lot of penalties last week. Half of them were bullshit, which they always are. I thought the Connor Farrell penalty was absolutely asinine to call that 9 seconds into the fucking game. That was absolute bullshit, but I think they showed that the ball was going to bounce their way. Chase Fraser, a shorty, 2 Sports Center goals and 4 goals total. Calgary, and this goes into my second key to the game, got to play lockdown defensively. That includes goaltending and defense, because Calgary didn't score their first goal 23 minutes into the game. They were down, 6-0? They scored their first goal to go down 6-1, 23 minutes into the game. If you shut out Las Vegas for 1 quarter, the game is done, because this offense has so much firepower. We got Dane, Josh, Chris, Chase, Tehoka, Ian McKay, Kyle Buchanan, so many players on this offense in transition game. You got defenders that can score too. So if you shut them out for 1 quarter, it's over. Just got to play lockdown, maybe just hold them to 1 or 2. You should win the game. But if you do the same thing, and you cook up the same thing you did last week in front of 19,070 fans, you do that on the road, which the Bandits have been starting to get their road mojo back, there's no question in my mind that the game is going to be over by the third quarter. You could argue last week's game, the game was over by halftime. What was the score at half? 8-2?
It was 9-2 at halftime.
9-2, yeah. The game was pretty much over at halftime. And they got 5 goals the rest of the way, and ain't nothing of it was garbage time. They scored a lot of garbage time goals. And every time they would score, the Bandits would score right back. And that's probably my third key. If they score, you got to take that back, because you have to know what you're playing for at this point. Yes, you're in the playoffs. Yes, your spot's already clinched. You have an X next to your city name. But you want to play in front of 19,070. You want to play in front of a sellout. And damn it, if you get that 3 seed and you're facing against the 6 seed Thunderbirds, you need that sweet, sweet revenge against those guys. And do it on the grandest stage in the playoffs in a one and done. Essentially a Game 7, do or die. So that's pretty much all the key. Johnny T's going to draw something up. That's all the keys I got.
Just plain simple. You mentioned basically all of them that need to be mentioned, but another thing I'll add is just don't overlook this team. This could very easily be a trap game. Vegas has nothing to play for. They have nothing to lose.
It makes teams dangerous in the long run.
It makes these matchups dangerous. So at the end of the day, Bandits, just remember what you're playing for. You're playing for a home playoff game. So this isn't a game where you just sit back and do whatever you want to do around the field. No. This is one game. I know it's the end of the regular season, but this is a game where you have to win, because you win, you get a home field. You get a home field playoff game. So, like I said, Vegas has nothing to play for. Do not overlook them, because they have, contrary to what their record shows, they have good players on their roster that could do damage. So do not overlook them. Play your game tomorrow.
They still beat 5 different teams too throughout this whole season. Why not 6? And it's the same thing with us. Why can't we win? The Bandits last week, fun fact, was their first 3-game win streak of the season. Why can't they make that 4?
Right.
So
absolutely.
You got to ask yourself, why not us again? That was you went in with that question last year. Why not us? We came up short in 22, 2019, 2016. Why not us in here in 23? And yeah, you
Why
fooled
not
me
us
once, you
again?
fooled me twice, you fooled me thrice.
Why can't we win it
You
again?
beat us on the. You finally get that chip on the fourth time. Why not go back to back?
Why can't we win it again? Give me
Yeah.
one good reason. Why can't we win it again?
Show me who we're playing round one.
I don't care.
I really don't. I don't
Show-
care if it's at home or on the
don't
road,
care
but I
who
would
we
love
play
to
the
win
whole
this
year.
game. Being a season ticket holder, I'd love to have a
But-
home playoff game though.
But let's get past round one first before we start talking shit.
Yep.
That always comes back.
Well, let's
to
just get
bite
through.
you in the
Let's
ass.
just get through this game.
Get through this game. We'll talk about round one once we get to it. Because win tomorrow night, and then we'll start talking playoffs.
That's keys to the game. Players to watch. Now we have to do score prediction. So, I mean, it could be a trap game. I don't expect Matt Vince to hold them to under 8 goals like he did last week. If he wants to prove me wrong, he definitely could. I have the Bandits winning this game 14-9 over the Las Vegas Desert Dogs tomorrow.
I'll go with 13-10 Bandits. So I'm right. I'm very close to you. I'll go 13 Bandits.
Yeah, instead of 14-7.
13-10 Bandits. We'll go with that.
Tony says all the time the magic number to win these games is 14. Bandits scored 14 last week and killed them in a blowout. 13-11 the week before to Colorado, so almost, but we still scored enough to win that game. If you score 14 goals against Las Vegas, I guarantee you, if Matt Vince brings it, they will not score more than
Give me
14 goals.
15-10. Give me 15-10. That's where I'm drawing the line here. We're gonna go 15-10.
And expect a big night out of Chase Fraser again.
Yep,
Just
15-10.
the same thing.
Let's roll with it.
I'll stick with 14-9. You said 15-10.
Let's roll with it.
Big game, except it's a big game and it's not a big game at the same time.
It's a big game for us. It's a big game.
Well, for season ticket holders out there in Bandit Land, it's a big game.
I think just for Bandits fans in general, everybody wants to see their team open up the playoffs with a home game.
Sometimes being the road dog is dangerous.
It is
Going into the playoffs.
But Banditland, it's unlike any other playoffs in Banditland. It's
It's gonna be loud.
gonna be loud. It's unlike anything else in the National Lacrosse League. So give me a home playoff game to start off the playoffs.
You
Let's
gotta
do it.
win this. You gotta win
Just
this one
need to
though.
win it.
And you are guaranteed. It's not. You don't have to rely on anyone else to do anything. Rochester already gave you a free one there. So if Rochester's good for anything in this world, it's helping us out in week 21.
It's simple. Just win.
Yep.
All you gotta do is win. And we know this team can do it. This team is too talented to not win tomorrow. So let's get it done.
The thing that's insane to me is that we're talking. When was the Vancouver game? A month and a half ago?
Yeah, it was right before I started student teaching. So that was, you know what day it was? It was March 1st.
Yeah, the beginning of March.
March 1st.
The fact that we're here on April 19th, going into April 20th, talking about this Bandits can control their own destiny for a home quarterfinals matchup is absolutely insane.
It's unreal. After that game, the season looked lost. And I said the season's not going to be lost for much longer until we find a face-off guy.
They did.
Luckily, they found Connor Farrell a few days later. And now
Connor Farrell found the Bandits. He's the one that
Connor
called the
Farrell found
GM.
Bandits.
Yep.
Connor Farrell found the Bandits.
He was mass calling him saying, sign me.
And I said to him immediately, I said this for a while. I said, if you get a face-off guy, championship hopes are back on. But as soon as we signed Farrell, I'm like, yep, we're back. I'm like, why? I'm like, it's going to take some time, but we should still be in the hunt to go back-to-back. And look where we're at now.
And if
we
a
got
team
hot at
wants to step up and dethrone us, that's why there hasn't been a team that went back to back since the early 2010s and the Nighthawks.
But right now, this team got hot at the right time, and they need to
Just like last year, shades of last year.
stay on the right direction, get a huge win tomorrow, and then keep that momentum rolling into the playoffs.
The moment where I said the Bandits are back was the Philadelphia Wings game. Like, officially back.
Yeah, that offense was
When they put up
phenomenal.
18 goals, I'm like, yeah, here we go. The
Yeah,
tide's
that
starting
was-
to turn here.
That was nice to see, for
So
sure.
that was
But-
big.
But I wanted to wait until after we beat Colorado and Denver. I said, okay, we could beat anybody. I knew we could beat Toronto. For some reason, it doesn't matter how our season is going. It took a huge second half in Toronto. You know what's very similar because two big rivals, Toronto and Colorado, kind of developed that rivalry with Colorado recently. It took a huge second half against Toronto at home last year to change our season around. This year we beat the Colorado Mammoth in Denver, and I think that's the turning point right there. Obviously, the turning point is bringing in Farrell and bringing in Paul Dawson, but the confidence that the boys needed went with them after their win against Denver, and it stayed with them. That showed me that they could beat anybody in this league.
Yeah, Buffalo's always been in a rivalry with Toronto since they've been in the league.
Always.
But Colorado, it sort of it was rediscovered from 2006 when they beat us there. We really didn't have a huge rivalry with them. There was that narrative going around where the Bandits can never beat them at home. And then it was, okay, they can sometimes beat them at home. They can never beat them on the road. And then, yeah, the rivalry turned into going to the championship in back-to-back years with the same exact teams. You're guaranteed a different championship run this year because Colorado is statistically the worst team in the National Lacrosse League. I still say to this day, courtesy of your Buffalo Bandits for breaking Dylan Ward, breaking down their hopes and spirit. They are definitely going into full-blown rebuild, reset mode going into the next year. They have to be if they want to keep their fans. It's always loud there, but they always have some loyal fans. But, like, if that losing stuff keeps up, the fans are going to lose interest. It's not like Buffalo where the 2017 Bandits got to work out the kinks, and they're like 6-10 or 6-12 that year, and they go into 2018, 2019 and go to the championship. It's going to take a little while longer for that, I think, for Colorado.
Yeah, that was a really weird kind of retool year because I remember we still had some good players on that 2017 roster. We had Dane Smith, we had Mitch Jones, we had Steve Priolo,
Brad Self,
we had Brad Self,
Pat Saunders.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird season. It was definitely like a retool kind of season. We had Nick Weiss too. Weiss has been on the. I would think Steve Priolo and Nick Weiss are the two longest tenured Bandits.
Steve Priolo has been on the team since they had Reebok jerseys.
He was on the team since 2012. So we've had a lot of long tenured Bandits. Probably Priolo, Weiss, and Smith are captains right now.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, that was a little bit of a weird season. But you bring in Josh Byrne, you
draft Josh Byrne first overall.
Yep, you draft Josh Byrne first overall. You bring in Ian McKay. Chase Fraser has a bigger role when you get to the championship. So those guys have been key pieces for a while. So obviously, they now that's why I said last year, this is going back, this is a little bit off topic, but that's why I said last year, third time's a charm. They go in against Calgary.
They were in over their heads.
Me personally, yeah, I feel like they really didn't respect Calgary too much. That's just what I think. And obviously Calgary ended up winning that series. 2021, 2022, they had so much talent, but at the end of the day, Colorado was the better team.
They faced no adversity. When they were down in games, they weren't coming back.
Yep.
That's how it was.
They faced so much adversity last year, and look what happens. Now they know what it takes to win a championship. So, again, I'm going to say to everybody listening, why not us? That's the theme. That's really the theme of the rest of the year.
We're already clinched. This Vegas game is just insurance.
Why can't we go back to back? This is going to be the theme from right now up until however far we go in the playoffs. Why not us again? Why can't we go back to back?
They definitely could. There's no doubt in my mind. The unified standings too. Like, this is different. There's not going to be you're not certainly going to get a West versus East team in the finals.
But you get
it's a wild card.
Best teams in the league.
Yep.
Absolutely.
It's going to be cool. Tomorrow you're already in the playoffs. This is for insurance. We want a home quarterfinals game. And if Albany loses, I wouldn't have any problem with that either, being in the 3 seed.
Me neither.
Especially after the rough patch at the end of February going into early March that we had. So, yeah, just take care of business.
Let's do it. Absolutely.
Yep. So this sponsor is brought to you by Mitchell's Tavern. Best beef on Weck in town. Go visit them. Tony and I are actually working on getting more sponsors for our show, so we're trying to get that thing going, and spreading this out on Bandits Mafia. Thanks for listening on Spotify. Thanks for listening on what was formerly called Anchor. It's now called Spotify for podcasters. Thank you for listening to there if you're listening to this on the audio version. And in case you've been living under a rock, about 14, 15 months ago, we started a Bandit Land Boulevard YouTube channel, so you can watch us right here. Always subscribe. I think we're at 58 right now, so just keep on giving us those thumbs up. We need more.
Give them to 100. Get Trev and Tony to 100.
As far as I know, I think it's us and Buffalo Sports Collective that do the preview and post games for every single Bandits game. So give us a subscribe. Go follow those guys over there at Buffalo Sports Collective too. I actually beat one of them in a chicken wing eating contest too. So, but they're pretty cool guys. So go follow them. Go follow us.
Give them a 5-star rating too, because they earned it.
Yep.
They
I'm
earned it
I'm
every
sick of
single
looking
week.
at Spotify, looking at this 4.3. I don't know what that garbage is. We want to go at least 4.5 and above on this show. But for all things Buffalo Bandits lacrosse, right here on Banditland Boulevard, we're pushing for another title here. There's going to be playoff preview episodes for this too. So another year, and like we said on the last show, they've been around for 32 years. They've missed the playoffs 9 times. You can count it on less than 2 hands. This team, whether you're a Sabres fan, diehard, or a Bills fan, or a diehard Bisons fan, this team carries the city whether you like it or not. They
Best
carry
team in
for
Buffalo.
every single mistake. The only professional sports team in this city with multiple championship banners hanging from the rafters at the KeyBank Center. So I know some people that, I think Tony mentioned it last week, he saw that someone went to his first Bandits game last week against Calgary and said, I need to go to another one. When you take someone to
Yeah.
their first Bandits game, I guarantee you they're going to say the same
Not
thing.
surprised.
The live music, the best announcer in the game, you're witnessing one of the best Bandits rosters.
Honestly, you're just witnessing
The dynasty era, if they win another one this year.
witnessing such a good lacrosse team. Offense, defense, face-offs, goaltending. The whole thing, the whole 9 yards is great. And the whole fan experience from start to finish, it's unlike anything else. It's
Yep.
unlike any other.
And for those that are going to Vegas that are lucky enough to be there, we better see you on the ESPN Plus broadcast, pounding the glass, rooting for the Bandits. We see all the same guys going to every single road game. I don't know how you guys can afford it or what you're doing there, but you're loyal to the Bandits. If we bring this one home, we're guaranteed a quarterfinals home game. So for season ticket holders out there, that's what we're hoping for too. Because we want to go to a quarterfinals matchup, then we want to go to a semifinals, then we want to go to a championship final. We want to win this. It starts with this game in Vegas. I got 14 to 9. He's got 15-10. Signing off from Banditland Boulevard. This has been Trevor Howard, Jake Howard. Tony, I wish you good luck on the whole engagement process. It's probably pretty stressful for you, but hopefully we can talk after the big Bandits win over the Desert Dogs tomorrow.
Let's go, Bandits. Why not us?
Why not us?
Let's do it.
Let's fucking go.